Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today I have Dipesh from Sierra Mortgages with me. So Dipesh and I have known each other for about 2 years now. After speaking at the beginning of lockdown in 2020, so the OG of the lockdowns, the very first one, we've kept in touch ever since, mainly talking about social media, website branding, and all that type of stuff. So you can imagine I was over the moon when Dipesh came to me and said, right, I need a new website. I need help with my social media because I'm going to launch my new company, Sierra Mortgages. So it was great to work with Dipesh right from the very beginning. And we're going to be speaking about that throughout the podcast here. So Dipesh is probably one of the calmest guys you'll ever speak to and ever hear on this podcast. And I can honestly see exactly why clients trust him with their mortgage, because he's very calm and collected. He's so chilled, and you'll be speaking to him shortly. But if he was doing my mortgage, I'd be running about going, oh my God, my mortgage offer's going to run out. And he'd be just like, Chris, don't worry about it, mate. I'll sort it. That's the kind of guy Dipesh is like, and you'll hear this on the podcast. So sit back, take a listen, enjoy the words of wisdom over the next 30 minutes from Dipesh. Dipesh, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you so much. It's been a journey and it's great to be here.
It's lovely to have you on here. Thinking 2 years ago, I remember when we started speaking, it was through Instagram, it was through a mutual client, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think you still work with them actually.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it was great to see the content that they were producing, and I just had to find out who was behind it and have a chat, because I wanted to go on a similar journey, and I want to work with the people that are making it happen out there. And obviously that put me and you together in contact. And about 18 months later, here we are. And
madness, isn't it? Thinking that one. I just remember having a chat over WhatsApp, then we had a chat on the phone, and you were like, right, Chris, this is my plan. And it's great now. You were like, this is the brand I'm launching. This is the way that I want to do it. This is the ethos and the values that I want behind the company. Can you help? And I was like, yes. Yeah. But you're about 12 months, 18 months before then, weren't you?
Yeah, it was interesting because I thought, oh, you know what, you've got an idea in your head and it's going to come to fruition in 3 months. It doesn't quite work like that in the real world, right? And it took us a bit of toing and froing with various parties to get things signed off and get the branding sorted, etc., which I'm sure we'll go into. That's how it all came about.
And I want people to realise, if you are starting out in the mortgage world and you are thinking about maybe going from an employed role under a company or an AR and going into something that's your own brand, it does take longer than you think. So what I'd say is spend a bit more time, and this is exactly what Dipesh and I spoke about, is spend a bit more time to get it perfect, because you only get one chance at launching that branding and launching your new company, and that's exactly what Dipesh did. But anyway, I don't want to go into that straight away. I'll take a bit of a step back. I always ask this question on the podcast, kind of give us a bit of a background into you, because you've been in the mortgage world for about 9 years now, haven't you?
Yeah. So it all sort of started after I graduated from uni. Actually, let's go back a little bit further back than that. So when I was studying, I had a sort of like a part-time job working in hospitality. So I started off as a waiter, worked as bar staff, etc. And then ended up doing a degree in that field. Worked in the field for about 18 months before, it's quite easy to get burnt out in that industry. And they've had a really tough time the last couple of years, as everyone knows. And when you're working in hospitality, the first thing is your guest or your client, they're the king or queen. So you treat them and with all the respect in the world, and you give them top quality service. Anyway, so I was in the industry for about 18 years and then left it and joined financial services in about 2011. Done various roles, but primarily it was, mortgaging and protection, whether that was an advisor or a sales manager or working in the compliance element of mortgage and protection. That's generally where all my skill set was. When I decided to sort of step away from the retail environment and go self-employed, it was a matter of how can I stand out from the crowd. It was about using my skills and my knowledge within the mortgage world, but also the skills and experience that I gained in hospitality, which is all about putting the client first, and amalgamating those together to create Sierra Mortgages.
Right. So that's interesting that you're in the retail space. That allowed you to that customer service element, because let's think about the CMAP, an exam. It's black or white. It's right or it's wrong with the CMAP. But then when you're dealing with clients, you can't determine what is right or wrong, can you? You don't know what's the right time to contact somebody. From a compliance point of view, yes, there's right or wrong, but in retail, you had to adapt yourself to that client, and that's exactly what you're doing still now, isn't it?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head in terms of CMAP or whatever exams you end up doing. Ultimately, it's a bit of a memory test, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can remember the context, then you can answer the questions. But when you're dealing with people, that's exactly what it is. There's no right or wrong answer. It's a matter of you're dealing with an individual, so you treat them as an individual, and you have to bring your personality to the table, because ultimately they need to know, like, and trust you in order to do business with you.
I like that. That's good. I think that's going to be the title of this podcast. You've got to get people to know, like, and trust you. And we'll speak about a few strategies today, both social and, you know what I mean, and personal, and being face to face that do help that. So you started off, you did a degree, started off in the retail industry, then went to like the high street banking world. Did you say that side?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What made you leave that side of it and go into more of the where you had a bit more control over yourself?
So I was fortunate. I've always wanted to run my own business and have my own business. I just felt very comfortable in the retail space, because you go in with a plan thinking I might be there for a few years, but a few years turns into almost 9 years. And luckily they were going through a restructure, so I was given the opportunity to step away from the company via redundancy, which kind of forced my hand in a good way, because it gave me the chance to actually go and explore something that I've always wanted to do, but because I was comfortable getting paid a salary every month, I chose not to do it. Out of potential fear of failure. I don't, God knows what it is, but yeah, it kind of forced my hand. So it was a blessing in disguise, in all fairness.
Yeah, and so you got that money to be able to do. And I'm not saying a lot of people that come on this podcast are, well, the majority are self-employed or run their own business. There's nothing, it's not a right or wrong to be self-employed or employed. It's just a lot of people that come on here have the desire to run their own business. And as you said, it's very hard to step away from, I know I'm getting paid this much every month, that's my safety net, to, I suppose, the first day that you left the bank, you were kind of like, well, I'm starting from zero here. You haven't got any clients, and I suppose you can't take any clients with you from the bank anyway for DPA.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's so hard.
You're stepping into the unknown. And it was weird, because the first day after leaving corporate, it was you don't have the company laptop, you don't have the company phone, and it's like, where do I go to knock on doors to generate business, which is a really scary thing for people. But you've got to have that drive inside of you and that determination to make it happen. And if you believe it and believe in yourself, then ultimately anyone can achieve anything, right? So.
Yeah, which is exactly what you're doing now. So how different is it now having your own brand? You run the company that you want to within compliant ways. You run it the way that you want to. How different is it? And would you recommend it to people?
Oh, without a doubt, I'd recommend it. Yeah. It's given me the option and the flexibility. Number one, work-life balance. Number two, the high pressured sell targets. I know they're not allowed to call it sales targets and so on and so forth, but ultimately there is ultimately an expectation when you work for a corporate, and you get to do things in a way that allows you to help more clients. And I think that can be quite restrictive when you in a corporate environment, because of various policies, procedures, and sort of red tape, if you like.
When you say help more clients, how do you mean that? Because you're not having to fulfill the spreadsheets, essentially, does that give you more time to do more appointments, or do you structure the company in a different way?
A couple of things. So when you're working for a corporate, especially if you're direct to lender, so if you're working for an actual lender, then if you can't help a client, it's not as if you can go and recommend them to go see another broker or anything like that. Very restrictive in that respect. So I've got access to a lot more lenders than before, but also, whereas some companies or corporates will have certain restrictions in terms of what you can and can't do with clients, I can choose to, if I feel it's going to be the right thing for a client, then I've got I answer to myself in that respect. I can go and do it as long as it's legal and it's compliant. Then yeah, I can help these individuals, and actually ultimately that's what we're here to do business for, right? We're here to help people buy their dream properties.
And it's a perfect way to kind of segue into your company now, because you're talking about how you're running your company in a way that you want to help people. And this was a big thing when Dipesh came to me and said, we need a brand new website. Well, we need a new website. We didn't have a website initially. And I want to make sure that these values are portrayed in the website as to how I want to treat companies. How did you come up with those values, or were they already? Because it's very hard to say, right, I'm starting a new company. What are the 5 things I want to get across to people? How did you come up with your values and your ethos for the company?
Yeah, so I'm very sort of family orientated. So for me, it would be a matter of the client that I'm working with. I would treat them or advise them as if they were my parents. So would I tell my mum and dad to do X, Y, or Z with their mortgage or with this property, or the way in which they manage their finances? So that was the first thing. The second thing, as I've sort of developed a client bank, people that are moving home or people that are remortgaging, I think one of the first questions I asked them is, who sorted out the original mortgage, and why did you choose this particular product or this particular term?
Okay.
But probably 80 to 85% of these people, these clients of mine, couldn't answer the question apart from this is what I was told to do. So they were not in control of that decision. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think they were in control of that. So Sierra Mortgages is about putting the client in control of that decision. They're now empowered to make that decision. I'm just there to help facilitate and guide them to that decision. So at least in 3 years or 5 years' time, when it comes to remortgaging again, I can pick up the phone and say, right, how are you getting on? This is what we did last time. Do you remember why we did it? Yes, you do. What's the plan now? What's changed? And what's going to happen going forward in terms of your future plans? That means we need to tweak whatever we've done last time to fit those new circumstances.
And you're playing the long game there, aren't you? We use a lot of the wording on the website is about the Sierra Mortgages family. And you're not only talking about a family from a point of view where you've got that respect and you're giving them the advice, but you're joining that family for a longer time than it just takes to do this 2-year or 5-year fixed or whatever product it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my head, a customer is somebody that transacts once. A client will transact multiple times.
Oh, I like that.
So the whole idea is actually put them in control of making that huge decision. Let's be honest, buying a house or financing a property is probably the largest transaction they're going to go through in their life. They need to have control of what they're doing. But actually, I want to help these people in the long term, 30-year clients ultimately. And, they're potentially going to have children. I want those children to be my clients in the future. So yes. It's all about joining that Sierra family because, I'm going to advise you as if you're my parents, not in a condescending way, but in a way that gives them control of what they're doing. They actually understand their finances better than when they came to me initially.
It's funny that when I was an estate agent, I always used to vendors. I'd always think, if this was my mum and dad, would this be the advice I was telling them about their house? And there were so many situations where estate agents turn into sales and it was like, do everything you can to get the sale. But in some essence, it was, do you actually want to move home, or you're doing it because you've been told you need to? Do you see what I mean? And that's what I really like with your side, where you're talking about the being a family, almost a family member to them that gives them the right advice. But I love that. I just wanted to get a background of Sierra and why you set it up and how you set it up. So let's talk about social media. Before Sierra Mortgages, did you use social media much for your business?
Yeah, I did. I don't think I was using it to the effect that I should have been using it. I just thought, you post on it, you use hashtags and you get a bit of presence and a bit of engagement, and hopefully you'll land a client. There wasn't, much strategy behind it, if you like. We've got a much better strategy today. Yeah. But yeah, I was using it, but there wasn't much thought about it. There was all these various articles that I read around, posting at least 3 times a week and, post it between, I don't know, this time of the day and this time of the day to get the most engagement. Whether that science actually works or not isn't, there's conflicting.
Nobody really knows, do they, unfortunately?
Exactly. So yeah, I was using it. I don't think I was very effective in the way I was using it in all honesty, but, this is where I had to sort of step up as a business owner. And, if it wasn't my strength, I needed to find somebody who could help me with it to turn it into a strength, which is where obviously I came into contact with yourself.
And the great thing is we work very well because we'll create the polished business content. But then what you do with it, we'll schedule it to your channels. What you do with it then is you take it to the next level. You'll share it to your Instagram stories. You'll write polls. You'll create polls on Instagram, won't you, to ask. I think I saw one on there today and I was thinking, oh, that's a great one, because the thing is with polls is you get to see who's answered your poll, don't you?
Yeah.
So those type of things are really useful. Where do you see, or what do you see as your favorite platform at the moment when it comes to social?
It's interesting because it all depends on what outcome we're looking for.
Okay.
So Instagram for me is the best platform for Sierra Mortgages, because it's picture content, video content, and I'm in a position where I can engage with my clients almost like on a personal level, but professional level.
Yeah.
Whereas if using LinkedIn is a slightly different strategy, I wouldn't be posting a lot of the stuff that we post on Instagram. I wouldn't post that on LinkedIn because the audience is completely different. But yeah, for me, on Sierra Mortgages, without a doubt, Instagram, and automatically that sort of defaults into Facebook channels anyway.
And what we've done with Sierra is we've made it a very, this is going to be a word, an Instagrammable brand, because the way that your logo is and the way that you'll hear Dipesh talk here is you're very measured, collected. It's all about the polished approach. Okay, so the images that we use, we want them to represent that Sierra brand, that calming influence, the sunrise, the sunset, those type of images. Did you go to a designer? Because we didn't do the logo, disclaimer here, we didn't do the logo at all, but did you go to a designer and say, I've got this in mind? Or did you say, I want a logo to represent what I represent? Well, that's a really convoluted question there, but I hope you see what I'm trying to ask. Did you go to somebody and they came up with the idea, or did they come up with the idea to you?
Yeah, so I used a branding company, and we had various meetings around who am I as an individual, what are my values, and how can we then portray that into the vision of what is now Sierra Mortgages. So as things like, what is Sierra? So if I use what is Sierra as the first thing, so Sierra in Spanish means mountain range, hence the reason why we have a mountain range in our logo. But Sierra to me is the journey that I'm going to take a client on. So if you look at the logo, we've got the S, which is that leads up to the mountain. Now that's the path that is going to take I'm going to take that client on that journey to the top of the mountain, which is ultimately buying their first property or their dream home or their investment property, whatever it may be. But the whole idea is me taking them on that journey to the top of the mountain, which they can then overlook the Sierra effectively.
Mm-hmm. I love the concept of it, and it's a beautiful logo, and you can tell that you've had it all done professionally, and it personifies you in a logo. I think it's just that calming influence of, as you said, the mountain range. It's fantastic, and that's how we portray you on social media. That's how we want you to be seen on social and across your website as well, that you've got that consistency. When it comes to social media, especially on Facebook, I want people to understand how they can utilize their family and friends to start that audience. What do you do? How do you speak to your family? How do they help you?
So I'm very fortunate because my family, whether that's my parents or my siblings or the wider family, uncles, aunts, and nephews, nieces, cousins, ultimately they're my raving fans. So they want me to do well. So by default, it's not as if I send them a WhatsApp saying, by the way, there's a post, can you go like, share it?
Okay.
And whatever. It was all natural. Initially it was, okay, new brand coming out, guys, I'd love a bit of engagement. But as you post, obviously their friends start seeing the stuff that they're liking and sharing, and you naturally just grow that audience on social media. But it's so crucial that you've got a support network, because you might be in business and you might be working for yourself by yourself initially when you start out, but you need to have a support network there that's going to help, because ultimately it can be very lonely otherwise. So.
Exactly. And there will be people out there that maybe a lot of their family aren't on social media. I think what you could also do is build a network of local business owners, because you're all business owners. And two things is, these business owners, you could speak to them about doing a reciprocal sharing agreement of the posts, because you're all local. And the second thing is, these local business owners and your family members that we're talking about here and their friends, they all need mortgages. So it doesn't matter if they run a bakery down the road or they're your auntie, they're more than likely going to need help with their mortgage. So I'm glad you said that. It's the support network from a social media point of view, but it's also a network of your first clients if you're starting out brand new.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'd like to consider myself, I'm a a small local family business. That's what Sierra Mortgages is at the moment. Where possible, I will try and shop local. So my local barbershop, as a pure example, it doesn't take much for me to say, hey, I've got lockdown here. Do you mind if I do a video of you cutting my hair? And I will post it on my socials and I'll tag your business into my post. And they would then share it and on their stories or whatever. And that's it's all about helping local businesses. If we can help each other as local businesses, then the area as a whole will benefit from an economical point of view, if you like.
It's like that. Have you seen it's on a chalkboard in a small business window? It's like when you buy from a corporation, you line the pockets of a big wig. Whereas if you buy from me, it's paying for my daughter's dance lessons. It was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something along those sort of lines.
Great way to talk about it. So social media, making sure that you're supporting local, getting friends and family involved. If they're not on social media, looking at like a local business network. That's the social media side of it. I want to talk a bit about the website, because when we first started working together, I do a lot of websites for people, and I thought you would be the perfect kind of person to do a video, because you can only do so much with a website to portray your values and your message. So I said to you, can you do me a video for the website? And I think we had about 4 different versions. You were like, is the lighting right? You wanted it to be perfect, didn't you? What would you say to people that are a bit hesitant of doing videos, and how has it helped you?
So I was petrified when you
watched the video. He looks calm as it.
That was probably it took about 300 takes, but the idea behind it was great, and it made sense in my head. So as you pointed out earlier, I'm quite logical when it comes to thinking. I need to understand a process before I actually go and commit and do it. But if you think about being a mortgage broker or a business owner, people need to see your personality. Now they can't really see that on a website if you haven't put a picture of yourself or you haven't posted a video of you, because that's going to be their first interaction they have with you before they even think about picking up the phone to speak to you or sending you an email for an inquiry. So that was the reasoning why I said, okay, well, you asked me to do it, and I thought, this is the reason why you've told me to do it. I need to go away and do it. But if that's going to be the first contact that a client or potential client is going to have with you, you need to make sure that you are personable and your values of your brand are coming out in that video. Because ultimately you want them to pick up the phone or send that email to you asking you for an initial consultation or appointment.
And be true to yourself, because Dipesh could have done a video like that and gone, guys, you could have faked it. I'm here to save you money on your mortgage. Get in touch. And then they phone you and you're like, hi, Dipesh speaking. You know what I mean? Your normal voice. And it's kind of, there's just I talk a lot about brand continuity, but I think there needs to be this personality continuity, that the way that you perceive yourself on social media, on website, has to mirror exactly how you are in an appointment. Otherwise, you're just very disingenuous. It can come across disingenuous, can't it?
Yeah, and this is why, using a branding company to sort out the logo and the colors, and then using yourself to then do the website and the social media, just shows that brand continuity. And I remember I think it took us about a week until we got that first engagement from an email from the website, isn't it? An inquiry that came in. And that just goes to show, if you can get that continuity right, you will start getting those inquiries coming in. And then to your point, what they hear on the website, or the person they hear on that website, is the person that ultimately, when I pick up the phone, they're going to recognize my voice straight away. They're going to know what they're going to get from me pretty much within the first 5 seconds of me speaking to them, because we've got that brand continuity right.
Yeah, and it's having it that we're talking about the person there, but it's the brand continuity from a point of view of the logo colors match the website, the colors that we use in the social media post match what's on another social media page. It's that continuity, isn't it? And it speaks volumes to you, because you are continuous and you're consistent with your content that you put out there over and above what we post as well. So Dipesh will upload to Instagram stories and the message will be the same as the social media posts that have been put out. So like you said, it's just been consistent. That there's so many tips and tricks out there on social media, but please don't think that consistency and being genuine don't go unnoticed. They're the main pillars that you have to have on social media, I think.
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail. Exactly what I was going to say. I said, you've got to be consistent and you've got to be genuine, because you can tell, those people that post stuff for the sake of posting it, but they're not genuine about it. You can just tell by the feel of the post itself.
Yeah.
So yeah. Two things. You're exactly right.
Awesome. Right. So we've spoken about social media. Now we're going to get onto the strategy question. So this is the one that I like to ask people, and I give people a bit of a heads up if you've listened to the podcast before, just so you're not sat there going, so I'll probably do this and then so. And I'm sure Dipesh has probably got a 15-point plan ready for this question. So,
presentation.
so we're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland. You've got a laptop, a mobile phone, and an internet connection. What do you do to start generating new mortgage leads, Dipesh?
So for me, I wouldn't do a lot different to what I'm already doing. And that sounds a bit of a cop-out answer, but I started the business or went self-employed January 2020. And by the end of March, we were in lockdown part 1. So I started the business with an idea, and then the world closed and we had no choice but to find business effectively digitally, wasn't it? So there's a few things that we do. We post on social media, we engage with our clients. I think that's the crucial bit. It's one thing to post, but responding to those clients or potential clients on social media. So whether it's a message or a voice note or
do you send voice notes, do you?
Yeah, so there's on occasions if I get a message on Instagram from somebody that's seen a post or wants to know or want a bit more information or wants a meeting, rather than type out a message in response, sometimes I might just send them a voice note, just so that again they can hear me, they can hear that how authentic and genuine I am in my response, as opposed to a copy and paste message that you could send to every single client without making it personal.
Right, I love that.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I think it's a great way to engage with clients. And then the other thing is, the power of people buying from people. So there's only so much you can do from a social media point of view, but actually you need to sometimes close the laptop, turn your phone off, and actually go and speak to people and actually genuinely get to know them on a personal level, because people do buy from people. Ultimately, they've got to know, like, and trust, as I said, in order for them to transact.
See, I like that, because you've covered both bases there. And like you've said, going out to meet people, you are a big believer. And I didn't, before getting you on this podcast, I've known you for 2 years. I didn't realize that you were so big on local as you were. And that's something we can discuss in terms of your social media strategy. But like you said there, going out to meet the local people, buying local, you buying from the local baker, you're not doing that to generate business. It will probably come as a prerequisite to that, but you are doing it to support that local business. Hopefully they'll come back to you for business in the future, but your primary goal is to support those local companies, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to, and I think it's a common mistake that you generally see just in everyday life. It's you've got to give before you receive. So you've got to go and support these local businesses and promote their businesses, because ultimately their clients hopefully one day will become your clients. But that doesn't stop me from helping. I'm based in London. That doesn't stop me from helping somebody that is looking for a mortgage up in sort of Derby or Leeds or Birmingham, because the power of social media. My social media presence can go to various cities in the country, and due to modern technology, I can help them. I've got Zoom, I've got a mobile phone. So that's not an issue, but ultimately you also want to support the locals. So yeah,
keep it local and awesome. And sorry, I didn't ask you, social media, what's the best platform you find personally? What do you like on social media at the moment?
I still haven't got into the whole TikTok thing. the more the more I see it, the more intrigued I get. But I don't think I'm quite ready for it. But yeah, for me, Instagram is probably the number one social media.
Is it even like aside from business, you still like using Instagram personally?
Yeah. I prefer Instagram over. It's weird because Facebook owns both, but I prefer them to Facebook.
I just wanted to ask you that because, sorry, I got it in my back of my head to ask you because you said Instagram is great for business, but it's interesting to see that you use Instagram. So therefore, that's probably the platform that in the future, you'll probably have most of your clients because you know it inside out. You can interact with people. You do a lot of Instagram stories, don't you? What would you say to, sorry, I know this is going back into social now, but what would you say to people that are a bit risk averse of doing Instagram stories?
I think with Instagram stories, it can be quite daunting when you're doing it for the first time, but it's like anything. The first mortgage application you do is probably the hardest one you're ever going to do. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and eventually it just becomes natural. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you have to, you don't have to force yourself to do it. There could be something that, you could have a light bulb moment that you think, okay, brilliant. I could use something that's got nothing to do with our industry and turn it into content that, could just be, have you thought about this? Or this is a different approach to, this scenario. And it's not just, we don't use it to generate business or all the time. It's there to show you as a person and your personality, what am I doing over the weekend, or where am I going on holiday, or it could be anything really. But yeah, using stories, just it gives you the opportunity to get a wider reach, a wider audience. That's what it is. It's
another, what's the word? It's another bow. It's another arrow to your bow, almost, isn't it? It's another string to your bow.
Another string to your bow.
We'll go for that. We'll edit that bit out. No, but it's Instagram stories, and you use it very well, kind of behind the scenes, talking about, like, it's just quick content. Instagram stories is great for quick content. Your grid is where your polished business content is. That's the way I would describe it. Sorry, I know we went back into social there, but I wanted to ask you that. Dipesh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it, mate. As a thank you, I'd like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice. Which charity would you like me to make the donation to?
Firstly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. The charity, again, close to my heart. So Alzheimer's Society. So my nan unfortunately passed away from dementia a couple of years ago, and Alzheimer's Society are a fantastic charity. They do a lot for people that are suffering from dementia, and there's a lot more we can do as well. So that would be great if you could donate to them.
And I know there was a lot of having a family member from me during lockdown with it. They found it very hard to get people into people's houses because of all the restrictions. And I can imagine that's had a knock-on effect with funding and those type of things. So yeah, no problem at all. We'll make that donation for you. Dipesh, thank you so much for coming on. How can people connect with you at the moment? What's the best way to get you?
Socials and the website. So Instagram and Facebook, it's Sierra Mortgages, and on my website, www.sierramortgages.co.uk.
Awesome. Perfect way to sign off. Dipesh, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Cheers, mate.